Welcome, fellow explorers. My name is Christian Alexanderson, and this is Hemlocks to Hellbenders, a podcast highlighting Pennsylvania's parks, forests, and great outdoors. What's the best gift you've been given? It's a tough question. I've been fortunate to have received a lot of great gifts over the years. The minibike from my parents, the engraved knife from my brother, the souvenir medal from my wife, and countless others. They're awesome and each hold a special place in my heart. But when I learned of a recent gift that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania received, it stopped me in my tracks. In 2026, the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources announced it had been given and has added Bilgers Rocks to the Moshannon State Forest. Some of you may be thinking, who cares about a bunch of dusty old rocks? That's not a great gift. But listen here, you have no idea how amazing this place is. It's the definition of a hidden gem. Bilgers Rocks is centered around a multi-acre rock formation that brings visitors through a stunning rock city. With little in the way of handrails and safety features, you can walk through towering sandstone blocks, crawl in rock rooms, squeeze between ancient boulders, and explore carvings from past visitors. I was in awe the first time I stood on top of and in between these giant walls of rock. It feels like you're exploring a prehistoric city, like you're Indiana Jones searching for treasure. It's otherworldly and outstanding, and now part of our state forest system. There's a lot to talk about with this incredible property, so I don't want to keep this intro going much longer. But I want to spend a minute talking about the Bilgers Rocks Association. The association had managed the property from 1988 to 2025 prior to transferring the property to the Commonwealth as a gift. I visited Bilgers Rocks several times before the transference, and the property was always impeccable. So before we get to the interviews, I want to thank the Bilgers Rocks Association for its dedication to preservation, for its steadfast stewardship, and for its one-of-a-kind gift. Knowing that Bilgers Rocks will be protected for generations of Pennsylvanians to come makes me and many others so happy. Thank you so much. But before we learn more about the property, here's the stats. Bilgers Rocks is a 147-acre tract located in Clearfield County. Available activities include hiking, picnicking, hunting, horseback riding, and wildlife watching. A notable feature of the property is its 300-million-year-old rock city. The property is named after its original settler, a German immigrant named Jacob Bilger. Nearby towns include Curwensville, Clearfield, and Lumber City. State lands that are close by include State Game Lands 87, 90, and 331, as well as Simon B. Elliott State Park and Moshannon State Forest. You may enjoy the property if you enjoy walking through ancient towering boulders. I'm excited to welcome John Hecker, Gary Gilmore, and Mariah Dunsmore to the podcast. John is the district manager of Moshannon State Forest. Gary and Mariah are with the Bilgers Rocks Association. John, Gary, Mariah, thanks so much for joining the program.
Thank you for having us.
How would you describe Bilgers Rocks as somebody who's never been there before?
So Bilgers Rocks is a really peaceful and serene prehistoric city built by timeless effort of Mother Nature. It's a place where you can relax and enjoy the wonders of Mother Nature. The geology and the history of the park or forest make it just a wonderful educational tool. It draws folks from all walks of life into its mystery and adventure. The gigantic ancient rock complex it's unlike anything found in other parks or areas. It really serves up an exciting walking through experience that visitors cannot get enough of. While having fun, adults and children can learn about the Earth's formations, the fossils, the history. There's no single park in Pennsylvania that can match this wonderland's natural rock laboratory, and it's one-of-a-kind ecology. It would cost millions of dollars for man to duplicate a classroom such as the one that's available right here at Bilgers Rocks.
Can you tell us how Bilgers Rocks became part of Moshannon State Forest?
Well, the Moshannon State Forest has been involved with Bilgers Rocks for many years. We've helped with outreach programs there since it was founded more than 30 years ago. We've helped protect the trees there through spongy moss spraying and things, and trying to protect the trees, the old growth and mature forest there from hemlock woolly adelgid. We've also helped the Bilgers Rocks establish a plant sanctuary there for an endangered northern Appalachian shoestring fern that lives there. And a couple of years ago, the association came to us and they started some 30 years ago, and they were looking for folks to come alongside them and more permanently protect and preserve the forest. And they approached the Bureau of Forestry and the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. We discussed options, things as it could be a state park, it could be, many other things besides the state forest tract. And we explored those options. It could be a county park, it could be many other things. And we explored them, and in the end, it was decided that it should probably be a Bureau of Forestry tract because of our long-term involvement there, and because it would be a help to protecting it. And the volunteer group has just been, it's been harder and harder to find folks that can have the time and want to make the effort to preserve the rocks and to protect it. And it's such a beautiful place that it should be protected for the future of the public. And it became state forest land then on November 14th of 2025.
It was really exciting when the announcement was made. I've been to Bilgers Rocks probably about 5 or 6 times. Whenever I'm in the area I go, I just am always blown away. Like, what are people's reactions when they first explore Bilgers Rocks? What do you guys see when people go there for the first time?
I think awe is probably the first emotion that we get. We get school groups with children, and then we get groups of people from all ages that come there. And they're always just kind of amazed by it's, this massive 300 million year old sandstone boulders, and they just tower above you. You can really feel like you've been engulfed by them. They've got the narrow pathways between them. It's just all the walking trails and the peacefulness of the entire property. They're amazed that we have such a little gem like this that's just kind of tucked away, hidden in Clearfield County.
Well, Bilgers Rocks are over 300 million years old. Do we know how they were formed?
Well, you have to talk to a geologist, but back when the landform was cold Pangea, when continents were moving around and ramming into each other, there was a large mountain range formed. And as that eroded, the sand from that was deposited in a ocean, a sea or whatever. And then subsequent events happened that created a lot of vegetation that grew, that was then buried and formed the local coal deposits. We also have a lot of clay seams around the area. But the rocks themselves are a bed of sand, basically beach sand, that was deposited about 300 million years ago, is what they estimate, during the Pennsylvania age. And this seam right here is around 30-some feet thick of almost solid sandstone. That's not been broken up like it is most other places. Mm-hmm. And so this sandstone bed, very thick, and the Bilgers Rocks is where this basically outcrops, and erosion happened further down the hill from it. And as these blocks then broke off, they formed what's now Bilgers Rocks. And I also mentioned that this rock formation was a site for 3 large quarries in Curwensville, stone from which was used to build the Rockville Bridge in Harrisburg, the Cathedral of Learning in Pittsburgh, the Philadelphia Institute of Art, and a lot of large stone structures around the country. So, and today there's still an active quarry about a mile away from Bilgers Rocks that's still supplying sandstone. So this is an incredibly thick bed of sandstone, and it's naturally occurring. And now that the Bureau of Forestry, the DCNR, is in control of it, we don't have to worry about it ever being quarried, which was a concern of our association, that should we dissolve, that this could then potentially become a quarry site.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who visits there for only a couple minutes can see how special it is and how much it deserves to be kept for future generations. I mean, one of the coolest aspects is the fact that you park in the parking area and you go for a walk and you start following the signs, and then you just kind of expect them to be above you, but then all of a sudden you're above all the rocks, and to be able to look below and see everything is such a cool, interesting, and fun feature. I mean, my favorite feature about Bilgers Rocks are the various openings and like crawl spaces and passageways found throughout the park. How do you see people exploring these wonderful features?
So it's very similar to the way you described it. A lot of people will park in the parking lot, spend some time at the pavilion or at the little playground we have there. And then they might just kind of wander back into the woods, and then they're suddenly met with that just gulf where the ground just drops off beneath you, and you get this almost this feeling of just being so small because you didn't know this was here. You can't see it from the general day use area. And then I think if you're at the parking lot and you walk down the hill, we have what we would consider probably the official entrance to Bilgers, where you can kind of 10 feet in, you're just suddenly immersed by rocks 30 feet into the air on either side of you. And then you get the options you can follow the trail that goes directly through the rocks. We've got several different levels depending on how much climbing you'd like to do. You can take a relatively flat, even path through the rocks, or you can climb up, in, down, around, all kinds of directions. We do have self-guided pamphlets, and then we also offer guided tours for the public. We do large groups, small groups. It just depends on the availability of our volunteers. We also encourage people to take the tours and then spend a little extra time exploring themselves afterwards.
Features I really like are that you just you walk into the rocks, and at one moment you're in these really narrow passageways, and sometimes you're wondering if you can even get through them, and then all of a sudden it opens into a large rock room, and there's just a lot of mystery as you travel through the rocks, and you look back in the crevices. There's various caves and ice formations and certain times of the year, and it's just a very fascinating trip. There's a bit of adventure in it too, in that you're not always sure which way to turn to get through the rocks, but as long as you stay in the rock formation, it puts you out at one end or the other, very close to the parking lot, and it's easy to find your way around. But it's just a very adventurous place to be.
The motto for Bilgers Rocks is a place where everyone can explore. What makes this park so easy to explore?
Well, I would say it's easy to get to, location-wise. So you just park, and then, like where I said, you're just walking on this flat, and all of a sudden, boom! There's a cliff. It's the highest point's about 30 feet, and it's just easy to see down into it. And then you go right or left, and you can find pathways down into the rocks. Now, this is not a huge park. I mean, the rocks itself may take up, 2 or 3 acres. So it's not a long hike, and it's not a hard hike. It's not handicap accessible, but that's just due to the nature of the rocks. But it's easy to get into. You really can get lost there. And one of the things that really strikes me about the rocks, especially this time of year, is how green everything is. It's not so much from the trees and the leaves, but it's from the moss that grows on these rocks. They're almost all covered with this thick layer of moss that just gives a verdant greenness to it.
Just to add a little bit to that, we do have trails around the rocks as well, and they're easy, moderate, strenuous, and then maybe some of the pathways through the rocks would be considered a little more extreme. We do have a gravel path that kind of goes around the circumference of the rocks, so you can see a lot of the structures of the rocks from a semi-close distance, and there is a little bit of a hill on both sides, but like I said, it's a flat, even gravel or even at times paved surface. So if you have someone with you, or if there's an ability to get around with a trail like that. I do also like to note that we had, I guess it was last year, we recorded Gary actually walking through the rocks and doing his tour that he gives to the general public. We have a video of that. So when we get school groups or people in that might have less ability or less interest in actually walking through the rocks themselves, we have that video option for them so they can immerse themselves in while they're hanging out at the pavilion or in the visitor center. We would need some kind of plans made prior in order to make sure we would be able to have that available for them. But it is really nice to have that option.
Bilgers Rocks and the surrounding area is steeped in Native American history. Could you tell us about this history, and is there any evidence that Native Americans use Bilgers Rocks?
Well, Bilgers Rocks is about a half a mile away from a major Indian trail that's been used for thousands of years. And that Indian trail went from what's modern day Kerwinsville up over the hill to Luthersburg, where it split, and one leg went up to Erie, the other leg went to the forests of the Ohio or Pittsburgh. So because the Rocks is about a half mile from this main Indian trail, we have to presume that some Indians did use this area, although there is no really strong, there's no villages around there. It would be people passing through the area. And in fact, we have a historical account in 1772 of two Moravian missionaries bringing a group of Indians from eastern PA through the area. And they never mentioned the Rocks. They did mention the mouth of Anderson Creek, and they mentioned the big spring in Luthersburg, but no mention of the Rocks. But with that said, they still used the area. I'm sure small bands would have gone through, hunted the streams nearby for fishing. They gathered chestnuts in the fall. So we know humans were using it. It's just we don't have any real strong physical evidence of their presence there.
Yeah, during the colonial period, the community at Sunbury, which was known as Shamokin, and that's where the trail got its name, the Great Shamokin Path. It went from Sunbury clear over to Katanning, and Katanning was and Shamokin were two of the largest Indian settlements in Pennsylvania during that time. So this trail was very important, and it's almost certain that hunters along the Great Shamokin Path would have stopped there, would have spent time there, or hunting groups. Like Gary said, within a half a mile there at Greenville, the trail actually comes up out of Anderson Creek, and it's very close to our rock formations there.
After Native Americans were driven west, European settlers moved into the area. Do we know about these early settlers?
Well, probably the most famous one we are aware of would be Jacob Bilger himself. He lived from 1783 to 1863, and he was actually a German immigrant and the landholder of the property. And that's where he raised his family of 9 daughters and 3 sons. He was a mason by trade, so it seems appropriate that he kind of latched on to and raised a family in and around the area of Bilgers Rocks.
Do we know when visitors started exploring the outcroppings for recreation?
So we actually have some photos of visitors that date into the early 1900s.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. I mean, it's kind of funny that no matter the time period, you're just going to see people that come upon this area and just want to crawl through it and just kind of want to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now, let's hear from our sponsors. Join Keystone Trails Association for the Appalachian Trail History Hike Series. Hikes take place on June 6th and 27th in collaboration with America 250 PA, Cumberland County. Learn more at kta-hike.org. It's better outside, especially with a Purple Lizard map in your pack. Their award-winning cartography helps you see the big picture and explore some of the best outdoor destinations in Pennsylvania. Each map reveals trails, forests, and small towns waiting to be discovered, helping you plan, wander, and reconnect with the world around you. Discover the Pennsylvania Outdoor Recreation Map and the full collection at purplelizard.com, where outstanding maps lead to outstanding adventures. Hello, fellow explorers. This is a message from the Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation. You know those incredible state parks and forests Christian talks about in every episode? We're the ones making sure they stay incredible. From maintaining the trails you hike, to engaging volunteer groups who make your experience better, to supporting conservation projects that protect Pennsylvania's natural treasures while keeping these places accessible. We're behind the scenes making it happen. Whether you're planning your next waterfall hike or just dreaming about your favorite overlook, know that PPFF is working to preserve these special places for future generations of explorers. Learn more at paparksandforests.org. Looking to add some Pennsylvania charm to your space? Sister Sunflowers has you covered. Their unique stickers highlight the small local spots that make your community shine, from quirky caves to hidden gems. Perfect for your laptop, water bottle, or anywhere that needs a little hometown love. They got stickers, magnets, prints, and even a hand-drawn poster to keep track of all the Pennsylvania state parks and forests you've explored. Use code HELLBENDER15 for 15% off your first order. Support local, inspire adventure, and decorate with meaning, only at Sister Sunflowers. Hey, if you're building your summer bucket list, you've got to check out Clarion County. Don't miss Living History Week at Cook Forest State Park, a fun, immersive journey through America's past, from the French and Indian War to the Civil War, with live storytelling, music, and hands-on demos. If you're up for a venture, local outfitters can guide you on river trips or hikes, or hit the trails at your own pace and wind down with local wine and craft brews. Plan your trip, explore events, or let us help you plan your visit at discoverclarioncounty.com. Clarion County. Add it to your travel bucket list. Laurel Caverns. It's the Commonwealth's newest and first underground state park, and it's the largest cave in Pennsylvania, with more than 4 miles of passages and tours for every level of explorer. Laurel Caverns is a different kind of state park experience, one that invites you to discover Pennsylvania's Laurel Highlands from a whole new perspective. Plan your long weekend now at golaurelhighlands.com. All right, back to the show. Throughout the park, visitors can find modern-day petroglyphs of people chiseling their names, initials, and years into the rocks. Do you know when the oldest carving was?
The oldest carving we found so far is, I think, 1917. The rocks, like you mentioned, has been used by humans for, thousands of years. But that's about the earliest date we see carved into the rocks. Now, there's a really prominent carving done in 1921 by John W. Larson, who was a Swedish immigrant. He settled in Grampian. He operated as a store there. But for some reason, he came up to these rocks by buckboard wagon. He even had a Model T by that time, who knows. But the quarry, the big sandstone quarry that was nearby had shut down. And he had this idea to go to the rocks and carve a sculpture into the side of the rock, which was "The world is looking to us." And what it is a large circle about 6 feet in diameter. And it shows the North and South America. And underneath it says, "The world is looking to us," indicating that after World War I, a lot of men had died over in Europe and was just pretty much decimated. And the world was looking to the Western Hemisphere, to us. And if you look at that picture on the left-hand side, there's a woman with her head bent over, looking down at a prostrate man who we presume represents the dead of World War II, and the woman weeping over the loss of all these lives. So that's a very prominent sculpture there. And throughout the rocks, there's some others chiseled in. Now, we do not encourage anyone to do that now.
Absolutely.
And back when I was a child, the rocks were covered with spray paint graffiti. And it's amazing how much that has been cleaned up over the years by caring people, and also by the public taking more, respect of the rocks. We don't see the trash or the defacing of the rocks like it used to be back in the 70s and the 80s. So that's very much appreciated by us as volunteers that care about the rocks. But if you walk through the rocks, you will find some chisels, marks here and there from the 40s, the 30s, and even a few more recent. But the big one is John W. Larson.
Yeah, and that one's kind of found at the entrance, right, of the outcropping.
Yes, as you cross, it's not by the parking lot. You have to go down the rocks. It's next to the road, probably about 30 feet from the road, and there's a pull-off place. You can pull off there and just walk in and see that carving if you want. But then once you're there, you almost are pulled into the rocks by your curiosity, and going through the cracks will take you back through the rocks along that cliff face.
Yeah, I feel like if that's the first one you see, the next thing you're going to want to do is just keep going and keep checking everything out.
Yeah, it's amazing how the rocks pull you in.
The park has over 10 miles of hiking trails. Do you have any trail recommendations for those that want to explore the rocks?
I can't think of any specific ones other than the trail through the rocks itself. We do have it marked, but it's kind of a create your own adventure. when you're actually going through the rocks themselves. You can just decide which path seems more fun. You could quote a Robert Frost poem, The Path Less Traveled By, pick one that doesn't seem like it gets as much use and really just spend as much time or as brief a time as you have available when you're venturing through.
Yeah, there's the main parking lot with a picnic pavilion beside it. If you park there, walk out to the township road, walk about 200 feet down the road, you'll come to the front entrance where the carving is that we just described. And you'll note we call that the front entrance because it's right along the Bilgers Rocks Road, which is a township road. And from there, you head back through the rocks and you just keep following within the rock formation, and it'll bring you out to the back door. You can also start at the back door, which if you start at the parking lot again, and you walk, there's a two-track vehicle path that goes back past some outhouses and a stone house that's back along the trail, and you keep curving to the right, and you come naturally into the rock formation. You'll see the rocks there, and you just explore, and you head towards the front of the formation, towards the township road that I just described. The trail is circular, so it always brings you out. There is a old railroad grade that goes between the rocks, and if you get out to that, you're obviously outside the rocks, and you get to that, you just keep circling around back towards the parking lot, and it's just a beautiful walk through hemlock trees and an old growth forest there within the rocks and things. It's just a really nice area.
You could also continue on the other side of the rocks, directly across from what we are referring to as the front entrance. There's a road that goes, and you can walk along the stream for a while, and that road or trail will actually loop you back up around to the education center where we host our meetings and then other events, and then that's where that's actually sometimes open to the public for other education opportunities.
And when we say there are 10 miles of hiking trails, the rocks itself is about a quarter of a mile through the rocks. The other additional mileage can be put on by it's a 173-acre property, and so those trails go on that. A lot of that's on that side of the property where you don't have spectacular rock formations. So just bear in mind that you don't have 10 miles of big rocks.
Yeah, the rocks themselves only take maybe 45 minutes to an hour to explore, depending on how much how many crevices you explore and things. So.
One unique feature of the park is dubbed the Ice Cave. What is that?
So the Ice Cave is one of the more popular places that people request to know where it's at. It's an area where you can actually go under the rocks for an extended period of time. You're completely cut off from outside light once you get in far enough. The entrance, I believe, is about 9 inches in one of the most narrow spots, and it does require you to get a little creative and brave with your maneuvering to go through. So we definitely encourage, if it's something someone's interested in, make sure that they don't have any kind of claustrophobia, make sure they're physically able to do some crouching and crawling and bending and twisting to get through. And you're not really underground for, let's say, 50 feet or so, and you can come up the other side, and it does require you to kind of climb up. So you do have to be comfortable with your physical ability to go through, but it is a lot of fun, especially if you can get, a flashlight of some kind is a must, but I prefer to have a headlamp when I go through, because you definitely do need to have both of your hands and both of your feet at all times available for use. We refer to it as the Ice Cave just because, as with any kind of natural stone, when you're underground like that, it maintains a cool temperature year round. So you might not find actual ice down there in the summer months, but sometimes it certainly does feel like it.
What do you think keeps visitors coming back to Bilgers Rocks?
What doesn't? Honestly, I think is the best answer I have for that. It really is. It's just so accessible. It's easy to get to. It's quick. You can really spend a lot of time. I personally like to go there when it's really hot during the summer, because it is so much cooler. There's a stream nearby that you can kind of hang out in. And then if you just want to hang out and grill some food, we also have a couple grills. There's a pavilion with picnic tables. that you can sit at through the day. It's a really great place to spend. And because of the nature of DCNR and the way it works, it's free. It's accessible to everybody. There's no cost to get in. And it makes a really great place where you can bring the whole family to spend the day. And there's always something new. I've been venturing there for, let's say, 30 years, because I've been, my whole life. And it's just, there's always somewhere new that you can get into, different spaces you find. And then one of my favorite things is the different ways other people see things, because there might be something that I personally wouldn't have noticed. But when other people bring it to mind, I'm like, oh, you know what? That's a really good point. I haven't noticed that. And then recently, just with the fern we discovered, or we found again, I guess, relocated. We refound it. So there's just always something new, and it never gets boring.
Yeah, and to me, it's John again. Just the different seasons out there is just a really beautiful place. Like in the wintertime, to climb through the rocks, and just different things are accented by the snow that you don't see other times of the year. In the fall, the hardwood leaves change all different colors, and it's just really beautiful that way. Springtime, you have the ephemeral flowers that come up throughout it's a rich hardwood forest, and you have lots of flowers that are there, and it's very interesting to see the diversity of this site. And to just be amongst the large old growth trees is just amazing. In summertime, as Mariah said, we all like the coolness of the rocks. It's a respite from the summer heat. The rocks moderate the temperature, and they hold that coolness of the night and of the previous season. And it's just a very unique environment, almost air conditioned, and back in some of the tighter spaces, But it's just a really beautiful place to explore.
And if you have kids, there's a playground there, not a real fancy one, but the real playground is down in the rocks. Kids just love looking in crevasses, crawling in there, climbing up on the rocks. Bring a flashlight and just turn them loose and let them explore. Do not worry about snakes. That we've never really run into anything other than a few garter snakes. There are no bears that they're going to disturb in the dens. There's just too many people. Bears do not hang around that area. So yeah, bring the kids and just let them just run around and enjoy the rocks. To my knowledge, no one has ever been seriously hurt out at the rocks. So even though there are no guardrails around the perimeter, people have always tended to respect the cliffs. So turn your kids loose and let them have fun there and let them explore.
The nearby Bilgers Rocks Education Center provides environmental education and interpretation to the community. What can visitors learn if they stop by?
So we offer, as the Bilgers Rocks Association, we offer a lot of different educational programs. We have field trips with large local schools. I think the third grade from Kerwinsville comes up every year. And then we have groups of homeschools that come out, people that ask for individual private tours. Like I said, when we have the volunteers available, we also partner with a couple different agencies in the area that provide mental health services that allow their individual clients to come out. And they actually open the center for us occasionally throughout the week to give visitors an opportunity to come in and look through. We actually recently put out a rock collection that was donated to us by a Penn State professor. And we set it all out, and all of the stones and rocks and rare minerals and gems are labeled. So you can kind of get an idea of different structures that are from not just around here, but around the world. And it is quite a collection. It's very impressive. We also have a Native American display in there that might show some artifacts that would have been common use for the area or time period that they would have been passing through our area. We do encourage people, if you're interested in any kind of private showing or tour, or you'd like to just go in and look at our small gift shop, just reach out to us and we'll see what volunteer we can get out there to make sure that you get a chance to see everything.
What do you love most about Bilgers Rocks?
The rocks.
The rocks, yeah, for sure. The rocks and then honestly, the people that come to the rocks. One of my favorite things about doing the education groups there is, as a teacher that can do field trips, it gives me an opportunity to allow children to be children. So yes, you can be loud here. Yes, you can get muddy here. Yes, you can run here. Those kinds of things are just incredibly valuable to me because it gives people a chance to explore. And in their exploration of the park, it gives them an opportunity to connect with a really rare resource. And in that connection, that's where we find people have passion and interest in preserving things. So we want them to see for themselves how special it is and help them understand why it is that we value it so greatly. And we're doing so much to make sure that it's preserved for the use of future generations.
Yeah, and for me, what I love most about it is, some people go to Europe to see the great cathedrals and buildings of that are 1,000 years old. And here at Bilgers Rocks, you see formations that are some 300 million years old and walk amongst them. The periglacial climate from the last ice age is what broke apart the rocks and moved them along, so there's various passageways and large rooms that you can explore. And just being there amongst the rocks is just something awe-inspiring and hard to describe. For me, it's not like a trip to Europe when we look at the great cathedrals, but it's nature's cathedral, and it's just a really beautiful place to visit.
You can see the layers of history in the rocks and the different deposits along the ages. It feels ancient and monumental in a way that man-made structures, to me, don't ever feel.
Do you have any tips for people who plan on visiting Bilgers Rocks?
Well, yeah. Now, pick the time of year you want to come, because the biggest tip would be bring a flashlight and maybe a camera, some good sturdy shoes. As far as timing, I mean, just think about this. In spring, when things are greening up, the rocks are just this verdant green. Of course, in the summer, they're still green and they're cool. You walk into the rocks on a hot day and it just drops the temperature at least 10 degrees. In the fall, like John mentioned, the color, the changing of the leaves. And then winter, when a mantle of snow is on these rocks and the icicles form on the rocks. It's just different. So no matter what time of year you're out there, you always have the beauty of the rocks, show forth. So definitely bring some good hiking shoes, a flashlight. If you're into exploring nooks and crannies, and some old clothes, because you're going to get some dirt on you.
So if I could also interject here, the tips that I was actually going to recommend, when I'm there, I like to wear long sleeve pants and long sleeve shirts. I don't know if it's a confidence thing, but it makes me feel more protected when I'm squeezing through smaller rocks. I'm less concerned about scrapes and scratches and stuff like that. But the other thing I like to bring in is some of the other local things that are available. If they're going to be in this area to visit the park, if they're looking for ice cream, we've got a couple good locations in the local communities where you can stop. We're not too far from Curvensville Lake if people like to visit for boating or recreation. Parker Dam and SB Elliott State Parks are nearby. And it's another really great place for people, if you're familiar with the visitor center in Benezet, with the elk. When people are there during the day, when the elk are not available, Bilgers Rocks is a perfect place for them to make a quick side trip, spend a couple hours, look around, and still get back in time to see the elk in the evening. So it really does provide a lot of different opportunities for really any kind of adventure. Like we said, choose your own adventure, and definitely come back at least 4 times a year so you can experience all 4 seasons at Bilgers Rocks.
Thank you all so much for talking to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us. We were thrilled that you reached out with the interest. It's such a passion project for so many of us. So we want to with as many people as possible.
I want to thank my guests John Hecker, Gary Gilmore, and Mariah Dunsmore for joining the podcast. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram and Meta for more information about upcoming episodes. You can support the podcast by buying merch at hemlockstohellbenders.com, or you can click support this show in the podcast description to provide a monthly donation. This has been Hemlocks to Hellbenders. I'll see you out there. Hosting, production, and editing by Christian Alexanderson. Music by John Sauer. Graphics by Matt Davis.